Now, here's a quick question I have a little pushback on. I'm not sure that I do, though. So you're
Okay, try me.
You're going to help educate me.
Sure.
So in our society, we're taught that anybody can achieve their dreams if they just work hard enough. That's the American dream, right? Or the meritocratic mindset is often reflected in the workplace. But you say in How to Be an Inclusive Leader, you say meritocracy is a myth. Now, let me pause you before you answer this, because I had to read that portion of the book several times. The term privilege came up. So based on my research this week, probably more than ever before, I realized I'm a person of privilege.
And so am I.
But it's a definition thing, right? Simply, if nothing else, simply because I'm a white male. Therefore, I've been blessed with certain opportunities afforded to me that that others weren't afforded. My question is, life isn't fair. For example, I came from a family of 8 children. My dad was in the Army. Growing up was always financially tight. I did not have a silver spoon in my mouth. But when I locked on the idea by listening to a tape starting at 15 years old of a motivational speaker named Jim Rohn, who was Tony Robbins' first teacher, Jim Rohn.
Didn't know that.
I was laying in my bed and he taught me that I could be anything that I wanted to be, that I didn't need to allow my circumstances to define my reality.
Right.
And so I remember taking that and looking at my circumstances. So this is where I was. My circumstances, I felt like were here, but my ideal vision of where I wanted to be was up here. And between that, we call cognitive dissonance, right? So, so it in this space creates a lot of energy and power and motivation to either move toward the desired ideal or to resort to the old or the current or whatever.
Or maybe the victim,
or the victim or the victim.
Right.
So I wrote here, I actually printed out this out of my book, If You Think You Can. I didn't say this in the book, but I wrote on the side, some people were born with circumstances where they received privileges that they didn't create. But the flip side, and this is what makes America great, is that you can start out with nothing in this country and make something of yourself. And I got stories and stories and stories over the years of people who came to immigrants that came to the country with 10 cents in their 50 cents in their pocket and became millionaires, and unbelievable opportunity. And I write in the book, quote, true achievers make the habit of not sitting around waiting for their break. They create it. They take action. Howard Schultz, Starbucks coffee founder and chairman, asked, what distinguishes the talented person who makes it from the person who has even more talent, who doesn't get ahead? Part of what constitutes success is timing and chance, but most of us have to create our own opportunities and be prepared when we see the big ones that others can't see. I just want to encourage all listeners, and I've given your take on this in terms of meritocracy. There, I get from the definition, I'm a person of privilege, but on the flip side of that, I feel like I wasn't a person of privilege, right? Right. Because I came from a little bit more of a difficult upbringing, and I was able to kind of fight through that. And so, where's the balance there?
Yeah, I'm so glad you asked about this because it's where a lot of people are stuck. The word privilege, first of all, has been a bit weaponized, right? So even I have felt that. When I'm honest about I had a very different background than you, even though maybe somebody would lump you and me together based on what they see, but actually you and I are vastly different from a socioeconomic diversity perspective, right? So you and I are diverse in that way. We have traditionally talked about diversity a lot as gender and ethnicity based because those were the underrepresented demographics in the workplace and still are. And many programs have been oriented around that. So when you say the word diversity, those are the things that come up, like affirmative action will come up, for example. But now the way we talk about diversity is literally all the nuances of other kinds of diversity, like the one I just said between you and me. You know, we are both white, and we may be both cisgender, I'd say, but we have socioeconomically incredibly different kinds of families. And so that when I open up to say everyone has a diversity story, I would invite, if you were an executive in one of my rooms, you know, you would have shared what you just shared. And I've had Jewish executives say, I'm on a Christian dominated management team and I'm in a part of the country where that's what our company, that's the predominant religious value here. And, you know, we therefore, like when my company scheduled a meeting over my high holidays and I went home to my wife and I said, should I say anything? Like it didn't occur to anybody. And we decided that I wouldn't say anything, you know, and I just went back to work and skipped my holidays. Like, so it's just that extra sensitivity to who's in the room that is often invisible. So we talk about visible diversity and invisible diversity. For me, being LGBTQ, it's like something I can choose to hide or to share. And oftentimes when I share it, I feel like I'm sort of out on a limb and I'm taking a really big risk because I feel like I could hurt my credibility. I could hurt my ability to be listened to. You know, and I know you wouldn't support that as my friend, as my colleague, as my boss. You'd be like, no way. Like Jennifer's got the goods. But the problem is not everybody's aligned with you. And I know that. So I'm not going to talk about that. I'm going to minimize it and hide it. Anyway, but I'm a person of privilege, many privileges. And I think funny enough, all of us have privilege, actually.
Right.
No matter who you are, you've got some, I say to my diverse audiences where there's a lot of like black and brown faces, I'll say, look, you're in this room today. Like the fact that you could take a day off and come listen to a speaker like me means that like some company is paying your salary and you didn't have to leave your hourly job and come and listen to me and risk your job. Like, so anyway, it's so universal. And instead of weaponizing privilege as something to be ashamed of, the way I talk about it is that my privileges, and I would define that maybe as the things that have been relatively easier for me in my life. So you pulled yourself up by your bootstraps. But the fact is, though, that as you looking like you went through the world, people were relatively perhaps more comfortable with you being a leader and being an author because they've seen you before, right? Yeah. So you're not unusual from a demographic perspective. So when you put an idea on the table, people are going to be like, of course, you know, we believe you, you know, totally. So anyway, and you're very charismatic, you're confident, you're an extrovert, you're a tall man, you know, even height has a lot to do with our believability. Anyway, so the things that you might say, well, I earned it all. I would argue, yes. You totally closed that gap, but you had some helping factors, just like I had some helping factors. And I can still get into rooms and tell the truth and challenge people in a much easier way than somebody that doesn't look like me. I can literally say the same exact thing, but I can make that point. So that to me, privilege comes with an opportunity to get into rooms, to say things, to challenge a peer, to take a risk on the part of somebody that needs some help being seen and heard. And it's just very simple. It's actually good leadership. To your point, it's noticing where can I maybe intervene here? Where can I point something out? Where can I maybe just take somebody aside and make them aware of what they're saying, what they're doing, that they probably don't even mean to be harmful and exclusionary, because so many of us don't see ourselves operating. We don't see the blind spots in our own leadership.
That's right.
So we need that reflective mirror. And it would help me as a woman in the room when you're in, for you to say, hey, like, why aren't there any, we're interviewing all these people for this new role. Like there's no women on this list. Right. Like, and that would be great for you to point out instead of me to have to always be the squeaky wheel to say, hey, where are the women? Where are the women? Where are the women?
That's valid.
Like, do you think this is smart? Like, should we really, like, when we have like 15% women at VP and up in this company, and there's no women being considered at all these like talent reviews or interview processes, like that should be concerning just from a demographic perspective alone. And if you notice that, it's more powerful than if I notice it.
That's right. And we're moving into a world and into a future where more of this is going to be a priority. So
that's right.